Wow. That was an incredible performance. And the news of UConn's demise was grossly overstated, probably by some of us on this podcast. UConn runs South Carolina out of their own gym. You're locked on.
You are Locked On UConn, your daily podcast on the UConn Huskies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On UConn your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Before we dive into today's show, a live show that is, we wanted to come up to say how thankful we are for all of you who are on the live show, commenting, positive, negative, whatever. We appreciate all the support. We're proud to say we're the only daily podcast covering the UConn women and men's basketball programs, the hoops capital of the world. And we're thrilled to bring you the coverage you deserve. And we show our gratitude by giving back. We're donating 10% of our revenue to Husky Ticket Project, helping send kids to UConn games. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, FanDuel customers, new ones, can get $100, $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. All right, welcome to Locked On UConn. What an afternoon it was for UConn. Basketball in general for the men and the women is like a religion for us. And I think some of us, our faith has been shaken by the lack of big time wins by the UConn women and then the inconsistency of the men. But tonight, or this afternoon, I should say, UConn marched into Colonial Life Arena and did the unthinkable, snapped South Carolina's 71-game home winning streak with an absolutely dominant performance, 87-58. And let me say that again. It probably could have been worse. 87-58 on South Carolina's home floor, almost by 30 points in front of 18,000 screaming fans on national television. This wasn't just a win. It was a statement. And I know it's such an overplayed phrase. This was a win for respect. It was a win for all of the teams that have come before them and not having the ability to play big time games because they play in a crappy conference. That's not the women's fault. So this like malaise that they've been in, this funk, if you will, when they're playing the St. John's and the Xaviers of the world and the Butlers of the world and just killing them. It was great to see this team punch a team in the mouth that was nominally better than them, if not more than that. I think it was like an 8-point spread. I mean, good God, what a win for them. Azzi Fudd. If you listen to our show religiously, what did I say about Azzi in the last game? How are they going to win this game? Because I didn't think they were going to. Azzi Fudd has to be the sniper. Azzi Fudd has to be the scorer. She cannot be if she scores, cool. If she doesn't, whatever. What made this an elite performance was you had Ashlyn Shade go crazy in this game too, and Sarah Strong played an amazing game. Paige was Paige, the facilitator, orchestrating the offense masterfully. 12 points, 10 assists, 7 rebounds. The ball movement was incredible. It never stopped. Boo, boo, boo. It was like watching a clinic, and South Carolina was scrambling all over the place. It was textbook UConn basketball. Let's talk about the numbers quick, and then we're going to bring Bella in. And then anyone else that wants to come on the show, I'll put the link in the chat. UConn shot 43.7% from the field, 13 of 28 from deep, almost 50%. They own the glass. This is such a key stat in this game. They out-rebound South Carolina, of all teams, 48-29. Absolutely feasted in transition. Outscored the Gamecocks 31-12 on fast breaks. Defensively, they held South Carolina just 38% shooting. We already knew South Carolina wasn't a good three-point shooting team. They shot 17% from three. It was literally they would have, if this was boxing, they would have stopped it in the second round, because maybe the fourth, because at halftime it was a 24-point lead. Could have been 30. They forced 12 turnovers, consistently disrupting any rhythm that the Gamecocks tried to establish. Quick box score highlights. Then we'll get Bella in here. 28 points for Azzi, 5 rebounds, 2 assists. Sarah Strong, another great floor game, 16 points, 13 rebounds, 4 assists. Paige, 12, 10, and 7. Caitlin Chen had a nice performance with 10 points. And, of course, we had Ashlyn Shade as well. Let's bring Bella in and hear what she has to say. Bella, what's up, my friend?
You said it perfectly, Mark. I had this here. This is what the game was. You see this? A textbook performance from the Huskies. Literally, this is old school UConn basketball where they just came out and it didn't matter who they were playing. They came out, they moved the ball well, they dominated in every single phase of the game, no matter what. I mean, it was just truly a game where I could finally watch the Huskies with a smile from ear to ear. It was pure basketball. And the one thing that I noticed in this game where I was like, this seems like it's a different UConn team, is when Jana in the first quarter caught the ball at the top of the key, crossed up a girl, and then laid it in. She was driving from the top of the key. I mean, I was like, who is this? I mean, even the announcers were like, okay, Jana, okay, 6'5", all 6'5" of her crossing up an athletic South Carolina defense. I mean, it was such a great game to watch. And I was genuinely like, we're back. We're so back. Like, I thought that Tennessee was going to be the game that, we were going to win and dominate. And then South Carolina was going to be that, you know what, just wasn't our night. This was the statement performance for the Huskies of the last 5 years that they've needed. I mean, like you said earlier, 71 straight wins in the building for South Carolina, straight home wins for South Carolina. It felt like a home game for us. I mean, like, not based off the energy, but it was like there was no home crowd advantage. We were.
Oh yeah, they were quiet.
Dominant.
It was. And here's the thing. I texted with T Baker, who comes in on Fridays and does our stuff with us on every Friday. He's our contributor. And I was just like, I texted him at 1:48 p.m. I said, this is crazy. And he sent me a screenshot because he's covering the Providence. I don't know who they're playing. He's in Providence covering a Big East game. And he said, hitting threes, Jana bodying people in the post, good signs all around. Like, that's what was the biggest thing for me is like, they bullied South Carolina. This wasn't like, okay, like they shot 50% from three. It wasn't like it was everything. And I loved Azzi's game today. Once she got into a rhythm, she was toying with them. Threes, and then they close out too fast, and she'd blow by him for a layup, or she'd blow by and kick it out to Ashlyn for a three. That's what I wanted to look at. I wanted to look at Ashlyn's numbers because she was on fire in this game. She was 3 of 7. She cooled off, but she made her first 3 threes, and that also opened things up for everybody else too. Like that, didn't we say this on the? I'm pretty 100%. Sure my brain doesn't function like it used to, but I'm pretty sure last Friday we said we need someone else, whether it's Ashlyn, whether it's KK, and KK played a great game too.
Yep.
But offensively, we needed someone to step up to take the pressure off of Paige, to take the pressure off of Azzi and Sarah. And you got the same performance that Azzi did against St. John's, and you got 9 from Ashlyn. You got 12 from or 10 from Caitlin Chen, who hit some big shots. Janelle Elfie 8 and 6. It was just a great all around performance.
Exactly. I mean, it was perfect. And the one thing about Azzi too that I felt like I haven't seen from her, especially when she was really early coming off from her injury, very knew exactly what she wanted to do with the ball before she got it. Right when she caught it, she was making a move with it. She wasn't kind of, do I shoot it? Do I pass it? What do I do? I felt like it was just she was a technician. I mean, she was perfect. And I said it when she scored, 34 against St. John's, I said, I don't care because I want her to do this against a team that is actually a
contender.
Yeah, a contender. And I didn't care about that performance. I don't care for 34 points against a no-name team. You know what, though? She proved me wrong, and that's what I wanted. I wanted to be proved wrong by her. I wanted her to go out there and have a statement game, and this all around was a statement game. And the thing was, too, Ashlyn Shade, she was great when she needed to be. Caitlin Chen made shots when she needed to be. Paige Beckers didn't need to be great tonight. Obviously, it would have been great if she had a 20-plus point performance, but she still had 10 assists. She still was involved in all of their first half points. I believe there was a stat where it said out of the 46 first half points, or 45.
45.
Yeah. Out of the 45 points of the first half, 24 of those points were either Paige Becker's score or an assist from Paige. So she still got things done, even though, it wasn't necessarily her bucket. So that's still a great sign to see. And, Sarah, another great stat from her, 13 rebounds. I mean, she was, again, you talk about bullying on the boards. Sarah was number one in that category. I mean, she was, same thing with Paige too. She was scoring, but she was, had a couple great assists, and just, I don't know. It was genuinely just a performance today where I think they really prepped well. And again, hats off to Gino, because the scouting report, the schemes that they were running were just second to none tonight.
Yeah, I think I mean, we've talked about this. Like, I'm not Gino Auriemma, I'm not a coach, but I think for me, the thing that I've loved about covering college basketball is because I've played other sports and coached other sports at a high level, I can kind of predict and dissect like what needs to happen to win. Does it always happen? Like I say, no, but we kind of did call this. Like we said, we need Ashlyn. We need AZ to be more of a scorer. We talked about how Paige is never a Tiger's not going to change their stripes. Like, it's just Paige isn't going to turn into Caitlin Clark. It's just not going to happen. She's not going to shoot 30 shots a game. It'll never happen. So let's put that aside. When Paige is at her best is when she has running mates that are on point. AZ was on point. Ashlyn was on point. Sarah, Jana checked in. I mean, Caitlin Chen gave them what they needed. So this Paige is exactly who we need to compete for a national championship, because AZ is being the aggressor on offense. And that's what we want. AZ is the scorer. Paige can still score 20, like easy, like an easy 20. She didn't today because she had a rough shooting day, but that's because all the attention's on her. It's not because they were wide open shots. They were difficult shots. So forget about the volume scoring Paige. I thought she played a nice floor game, but think about that. You just beat South Carolina, who was the consensus number one team in the country, has lost a couple times this year before this, and you beat them by 30 on the road, and Paige only scored 12 points. Do you want me to say that again? Like, the people are nuts if they think this was if that's a negative. I'll take that all day.
I think it genuinely, like you said, I think everybody did exactly what they needed to be, exactly what they needed to do. But hey, next game, if they come out, if Paige is the scorer and AZ kind of takes a step back, it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
That's the thing. UConn has so many options. They tonight, and the other thing I think we said too, I know I touched on this in last Wednesday's episode, is they needed to win on the boards. They did just that. Dominated the boards. The only stat that UConn had, that UConn was outnumbered by, was in turnovers, and that's exactly what you want, right? South Carolina had 12, UConn had 10. We played this game perfectly. I mean, there was it, and again, I think if we played South Carolina a couple more times this year, things would go different. But you also have to take into consideration they had Dawn Staley. She had no answers. Answers. Probably,
they were
I would
big
say,
mad.
Exactly. She was silenced. I mean, you could tell from the first quarter, her face was in disbelief. She was speechless. She had a whole halftime to prepare, and say she had whole, weeks to prepare. Obviously, they played Texas, so they had to focus on that game. They lost that one. Would have been a little bit sweeter if they had beat Texas, because I think, people would have still been on their high horse a little bit more on South Carolina. But Staley had no answers. And again, like I said, this was the old school UConn, just, listen, we're going to come into your building. We're going to beat you. We don't care who you got on your side, because we know our five are going to be better, and we know our bench goes deeper than yours. And tonight it did.
Before we get to a break, actually, I'm going to go to a break, and then I want to ask you this question because it came in through the chat.
I love
Will
that.
This game help a guy choose UConn? Well, what we can say is Sarah certainly outplayed Joyce Edwards. So maybe you want to come to the place where you can, learn to be as good as Sarah is in her freshman year. And that would be cool if we can get a Got McCord next year. Because if we do, man, that team next year is going to be fire. Anyway, we're gonna take a quick break and then come back and talk about this game a little more. Oh, my old friends at FanDuel. Let's get this comment off so we can actually see that FanDuel is the sponsor, right? FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. It is by far. I'm trying to find the ad copy, guys. I apologize. This is the only problem with live shows is I can't pause and get all squared away. I got too excited and wanted to get this out for you guys. But let's see if I can find it quick. If not, I'll wing it. 2 seconds here. All right. Look, here's the thing with FanDuel, because I have it. And actually, my wife and I used it in the Super Bowl. If you're a new customer, you get $150 in bonus bets. If your first $5 bet wins, you can use live bets. You can do anything from anytime. Like, for example, like if Azzi Fudd was, 3.5 3-pointers tonight and you got one over, you win on that, right? The over-unders, the spread, the money lines, you can win on anything. Live bets is easy to use in the app. If you win your first $5 bet, you get $150 in bonus bets. My wife and I won big on the Super Bowl by using those bonus bets because we did a bunch of parlays that actually one of them hit. It was pretty cool. So definitely do it if you haven't done it already. Appreciate you guys checking out FanDuel. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, an official sportsbook partner of the NBA. All right, we're back with Beltamana, Hoops Capital of the World, and Locked On UConn, of course. Your host here, Mark Zanetto. All right, full disclosure, I was out having all-you-can-eat sushi, watching this game on my phone, and it was freaking awesome because I taped the game, and I was like, if it's like a close game or if it's whatever, I'll put it down, and then I'll watch it when I get home. We'll do a live reaction show later. But once they started, like, taking the reins, I was like, all right, we're gonna watch this, and when I get home, we'll do it live, and it'll be all good. I have to say, I thought Aubrey Griffin played a good game today too. She's working her way back. I thought she was physical in the post. I don't care that South Carolina, lost against Texas because this team is a solid team. Texas is too. I'm going to respond to Bria here. Listen, there's a difference between confidence and trusting what you see. And in all of the games before today, some of the games that they played okay. I mean, I was there live against North Carolina. They had a 25-point lead. They North Carolina cut it to 9, and that was in a neutral site. It's not about like this world that we live in where if you criticize the team, you're a hater. Like you see my shirt right here. I've been watching this team since 1989. So I hate to break it to y'all. Like we've been a lot better than we have been this year. And on top of that, we haven't been good this year. We've been okay. Like for UConn standards, we're 23-3, and by UConn standards, we've lost all of our big games except for today. Maybe you can make a case for Ole Miss. Maybe you can make a case for Iowa State as bigger games. You can have those, but let's be clear. Like the Tennessee game is a big game because of the rivalry. Notre Dame is a big game because of the rivalry. Did they have injuries? Yes. Did they not miss open shots? Yes. But that's not our fault. I didn't miss shots. They did. We're commenting on it. We're having a show based off of it. So I appreciate the comment, Bria. Thanks for tuning in. But what confidence? If I'll ask you, Bella, if you came into the show on Thursday and we talked about this, and you had all of this irrational confidence, what do you think I would have said to you?
Yeah, I think you would have been like, well, Bella, kind of slow your roll a little bit. And the other thing too is, I mean, it's not that we weren't, it wasn't a confidence thing. This was an upset, a huge upset. Like they weren't supposed to win this game. Everybody on College Game Day picked against them. Yep. I don't necessarily think we wanted to pick against. I mean, yeah,
no, of course not.
Nobody wants to pick against UConn. Like I said, I mean, I was so happy to see this, but this was an upset. Like it wasn't a confidence factor. It was just a logic factor. If they haven't won a big game yet, and they came off a really bad performance against Tennessee, and really haven't been tested since then, we're gonna say that South Carolina, a team that has had some really great big wins this season and has 71-0 in their last 71 contests at home, we're gonna say South Carolina is gonna win that game. Like that's just kind of what it's gonna, that's how the cookie crumbles. But like I said, I've criticized them a lot in the past. Am I happy that they won? Am I happy that they proved me wrong? 1,000%. 1,000%.
Come on, you got anybody that's weird about that. I just know that they don't watch a lot of sports, because if I was I'm a Giants fan. Do you think I thought the Giants were going to beat the Patriots in 2000? What year was that? 2011. Yeah,
2007,
when
2011.
2007. Yeah, when they were undefeated, when New England was undefeated. Did you honestly think that any Giants fan, like realistically, maybe there were some like weirdos out there like we're going to win this game, but like, come on, let's just be honest.
In
Doesn't make you a bad fan,
right? The Patriots already beat the Giants earlier that year. Brady threw his 50th, regular season touchdown pass to Moss in that game. I mean, it was, they didn't beat up on the Giants, but same thing. It's like, oh, we beat them already. We're undefeated. Let's finish it off. And like, that's what I'm saying. Like, upsets happen. And same thing in the Super Bowl this year. I mean, I thought the Chiefs were going to win. I didn't think it was going to be a blowout, but I thought the Chiefs were going to win pretty easily. And I'm really happy that I was proved wrong. So,
yep.
Same thing with today.
I'm going to say this to our boy Rye Bread here. I don't know if I could be boy, girl, whatever. Azzi, I said it before. She's the key. She is the key, the scorer, the person that you got to bank those extra points are. I don't think you can put that all on Paige because she gets all the attention, and Azzi is going to start getting more attention. That's going to open things up for her and Sarah and others as well. I disagree with the caller in the chat that said the Tennessee game, all the games were close against top flight teams. Sure. Tennessee, they were fully healthy. And it was a bad loss. Bottom line. Let's see. This was another comment in the chat that I thought it was a good one. Is it possible for them to get a 1 seed after this win? I think if they win out and in the SEC kind of eats themselves like alive and you get a few teams that, like, if South Carolina loses another game, UCLA just lost, USC is going to probably move up to a 1. It's possible because they're going to win out and they're going to win out and win the Big East tournament. So they could sneak into the back door of like the last 1 seed. I think that's possible. Don't you?
Yeah. I was looking at South Carolina's schedule after dropping these two, big games. They finished with number 8 Kentucky at home. Not saying that they will, lose that game, but I think if they lose that, that's going to be the key because I don't know. I think South Carolina could squeak out of this if they don't finish strong. And I think UConn could take that spot. If you look at head to head, obviously that's what it could come down to. I don't necessarily think we need that 1 seed. I think
I don't think so either.
It would be helpful. But I kind of like being the underdog. I kind of like taking that kind of a title this year. I want to be an underdog. You know what I'm saying? Like, same thing today. Bet against us. Help that light a fire under us. In Tennessee, we were obviously favored to win, and we didn't, and we lost. Maybe, some of these girls need that motivation to say, okay, like, let them pick against us, and let's show them, we're still UConn. We still got the best coach of all time in women's college basketball. We still have Paige. We still have Azzi and Sarah. So I kind of like that underdog title, personally. So I don't know if we necessarily need that 1 seed, but I do think it is possible. Things are definitely right as of now in our favor. Still need a couple things to go right, but I'm fine with that 2 seed.
Yeah, no, I am too. And here's the thing, and this is directed at like Jimmy and some of the other people in the chat. Like, this is the only big win they've had, but they won by 30. They didn't squeak by. It wasn't like it was like, oh, controversial victory from UConn and Columbia. They boat raced South Carolina. They literally wiped the floor. Whatever you want to say. Like, how many euphemisms can we use in one sentence? Like, they crushed them. So if South Carolina loses some, and if other teams that are on the 1 line lose, Notre Dame, others, it's possible that they sneak in for the last 1 seed. Is it likely? Probably not. But who gives a rip? Because if you're a good 2 seed, you're going to have to play the 1 or the 2 seed that you replace. You may get an easier like run to the Sweet 16 with the 1 seed, but who cares? Like, it doesn't matter. So anyway, let's get back to the idea of a GOT potentially watching this game and being like, damn, I think I want to pick UConn now. Think about it. I want to hear from you, Bella, because you're her age essentially, right? You're a little older, couple years. Is this something that would sway you?
So that's a very, very, very tough question because I think nowadays with the NIL and things like that, money comes into it, and there's definitely a lot of factors. I think just based off like that recency bias, psychologically, you got to be thinking, this was a pretty good. Am I allowed to swear? on this?
It's kind of. Keep it PG-13.
It was an ass kicking. All right.
Yeah.
It was an
There you
ass
go.
kicking. But that's basically the only way that I can put it. I feel like if I'm a Got McCore, I like the way you put it, thinking like, I want to go play with Sarah Strong and I want to go win a title, right? Like, why be kind of, I feel like everybody on South Carolina, all the names are kind of like equal. I want to go stand out at UConn. I want the fans to love me. I want people to travel like they do for Paige and like they're probably going to do next year for Sarah and, Azzi. I think if I'm a Got McCore, I think personally, I would say UConn, because right now the recruiting class that they have coming in is a little more low key. It would be huge for them. She would get so much publicity over coming to UConn rather than coming to South Carolina, because they kind of already have their, class intact. Yeah, because I think if she doesn't go to South Carolina, I think it's a bigger loss for UConn if she goes to South Carolina than it is for South Carolina if she
I
goes
do
to
too.
UConn.
I
So
do
that's
too.
kind of, that's
But I
kind of the
also feel like,
way.
too, to your point, and this is, directed at you and the chat, like, I don't think one game will sway her. It's just a fun topic, and I appreciate
Yeah.
someone bringing that up as a question. What I would say is, you know, we make a little too much of whether or not like someone's going to make a choice based off of that. But what I will say is, to your point, if she does pick South Carolina next year, she is she's 100% going to be just another player at South Carolina. I know Joyce Edwards was their leading scorer, and she's a great freshman. But unless you are like a diehard women's basketball fan, you're not really knowing Joyce Edwards. But Sarah Strong is kind of pretty mainstream at this point because she plays at UConn, and I think that's kind of the advantage that UConn still has. They don't have as much the cachet because I think Dawn has stolen a lot of really great talent. From Gino, just because she's cool. Like, I mean, like, let's just be honest. Like, she's younger. She's from a different generation. She wears like jackets on the court. She wears like cool, like culture gear and stuff like that. Like, it's not the same. Like, I'm not saying that it's like, it is kind of like a culture clash in that respect, right? Where if you want to go play for Gino, that's great. But if you also want to go play for Dawn, you're going to get great coaching regardless. But it's also where you feel comfortable. And if she feels more comfortable going to South Carolina, cool. Listen, I joked around like on the men's side too. It's like Dan Hurley's not for everybody. Gino Auriemma's not for everybody. And Dawn Staley's not for everybody. So it's really just about like if that kid meshes with the coaching staff and if the parents are cool with it, like all of that, like it all has to come together. But it's hard to not think watching this game that there isn't like a part of her. She could think about it two ways. She could go, man, I want to go to South Carolina now because they need my help. Or she could say, it's pretty cool to play with Sarah Strong.
Yeah.
So I could see that either way.
Yeah, and I agree with you. One game's not gonna drastically change her decision, but definitely something to think about. Definitely something to kind of put in the back of her head. And I don't know. I think I just feel like at this point in time, it's gonna have to. We don't want to get too crazy because it still is a regular season game. There's still March to be talked about, and I think the biggest thing that I've mentioned this before on the podcast, but Gino in his press conference when asked about having these, not big non-conference games late in the season, it can give you a false sense of confidence, a false sense of hope, right? Like all of a sudden everybody was counting UConn out after we lost to Tennessee, but now that we beat South Carolina, we're talking, hey, we're back in talks with the 1 seed. We might, are we going to run the table and just dominate and win in the NCAA tournament? And are we back in that conversation? Don't get me wrong. This is a statement win. This was an incredible win. I'm not trying to downplay anything.
Yeah.
But it's not, we don't want to get too ahead of ourselves and say that, we're gonna get now Got McCourt because of this game. Not that we're saying that, but it is a fun topic, like you said. But definitely still have to be careful. Still have to take it one game at a time, one step at a time. But don't get me wrong. Today is a great day. I'm going to bed with a smile on my face because of this win.
Absolutely. We're going to take a quick break. There's no ads. We'll be right back. Coming up, We're going to finish the show and talk about how we're going to build off of this. Kind of Bella just teased it a little bit about not getting a little too big for our britches here. And because you got to lock in now, you got, 6 games left in the regular, 7 games left in the regular season, plus 3 Big East tournament games to kind of secure that high 2 seed, maybe sneak into a 1 seed and just take care of business. We're going to talk about that coming up after the break. All right, quick break. We're back here, Locked On UConn with Bella Tamano, Hoops Capital of the World, and of course, our co-host on Locked On UConn on the women's show. Also pops in on the live shows on the men too as well. Your host here, Mark Zanetto from Locked On UConn. All right, guys, great win. Bella literally crystallized it the last 10 seconds before I went to break about how, yes, this is a great win, 100%, but we definitely need to. And I say we as in the team, not me, needs to focus on kind of locking in. Like, I think the biggest thing about Gino's teams in the past, especially like this team in 02 that went 39-0, essentially is every game is like a clean slate. I don't know if you're old enough to remember Men in Black where they do that little, thing, it clears your brain. That's literally how you have to be as a big time athlete, because if you start to focus on all of the great things and you listen to this podcast and it's like, man, they said I was amazing and they're doing all this stuff. Everyone on campus is giving me, pats in the backs and, sending me, hey, take a coffee on me because, at Starbucks in the bookstore. Great game, Jana. Like, no, I don't want it because the season's not over. What did Kobe say? Job's not done, right? Up 2-0. Where's your smile? Where's your smile? Job's not finished. So if you're a UConn player, you don't have time to reflect. Let's just put it that way, right? You don't have time to reflect on how awesome you were. AZ doesn't have time. She had a smile on her face from ear to ear at the end of this game. Awesome. Get back on the plane, joke around with your friends. But when you come back to UConn, it's time to get back to work, right? Get all the rehab that you need to kind of feel better in your next game. And then just knock on wood, the rest of the year, everyone stays healthy. Maybe we get Morgan back. Maybe we get Caroline back. And now we have a legitimate shot. You can take this game and start to think this team has the building blocks to potentially make a run in March. I was not feeling that way after the Tennessee game, and they kind of brought me back.
Yeah. I got a couple of things to say, Mark. You started out and you said we. I think here in Connecticut, especially when we're talking about basketball, I want to let us say we. No. You don't know. Yeah, I want to say it. We can say it because you know what? The fans, we've been here for so long. I mean, we like every time. Even same thing on the men's side. Dan says, "Pack this place, get loud. We need you."
Yeah,
we're saying we put the time into this. We love UConn basketball. Everyone who's a UConn basketball fan knows that it starts from the bottom to it's from the bottom to the top. So I want to say that we're gonna say we. If we want to say we, we'll say it. Number 2, same thing. Short-term memory, absolutely. You can't get complacent. That's the name of the game as an athlete. You have to just recognize, okay, like in one year, out the other. We won. We did a great job. Pat ourselves on the back and move on to what's ahead of us. That's got to happen. And then number 3, I want to say, I think oddly enough, the injury to Ice Brady, obviously never won any injuries, but I think that's really helped us find our different lineups and find some sort of identity in what we've been mixing around with. Sometimes we go with kind of a smaller lineup and we have Aubrey sort of play a big role as almost like a center. And I think that's worked well with us. And I think teams have had some trouble figuring that out. And then when Jana's in, if she can play like she did today, that also works out. So I feel like we finally found a rhythm in subbing, in having certain lineups on the floor and when we need to do it and when we don't need to do it. So oddly enough, I feel like that Ice injury has helped us a little bit. And again, never want to risk injury on anybody. Love Ice. Hope she can get back healthy. But I do feel happy in what that's brought us and what we've been able to figure out with her, being sidelined. I don't know if you want to agree or disagree on that one, but.
No, I do. I think I only saw Gino get upset with her once in this game, and it was like she got a little too like big for her britches. Like she got a little aggressive, and she crossed over her opponent like in the very first play of the game, and it was wild. But but she has that talent if she takes her time. And so like there was one time where like she rushed and traveled. She did like a pump fake and like moved her pivot
Yep.
foot, and Gino was just like, slow down, like just like
Right.
that. It was so clear. Even on my stupid little iPhone, could see it. Like it was just like Gino like gets on her because he sees the talent and the ability, like that 6'5" to dominate the post, to kind of take someone off the dribble, to shoot a little bit. She didn't miss a lot of layups today, like all that stuff. So yeah, Jana had an impact. And I think for me, there's a lot of keys to winning a basketball game, but for Gino and his teams, you need to have that dominant 3-person triumvirate, and you need to have post presence, right? You need to have the Paige, the AZ, and the Sarah, those three, because that's been like the key for his national championship teams. And you have to have the Aubreys, the Janas to do the dirty work, to be those inside presence. Hopefully Caroline makes it back, Morgan, things like that. So, yeah, I just think like that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, and I just want to say one more thing too. I talked about how I felt like when they needed somebody to step up, it wasn't always the same person that made the big shot, but they always had somebody to do it, and everybody had their moment. The one thing I saw, I looked at the box score. Okay, KK Arnold, she had a good game. She only had 2 points. That bucket that she had was early, I think, in the first or second quarter. And it was late in the shot clock where she had this really good baseline. I think it was like a reverse layup or really just she made a really good move on a defender. And that's the epitome of, she didn't have a lot of big moments. She had one big moment, but it was a huge pivotal point for the Huskies late in the shot clock, a backbreaker for South Carolina, and they extended the lead for UConn. And that goes to show that, she wasn't a big impact in the scoring book today, but she had that one moment where UConn called on her, they needed her, and she did it. And that's what I love. Like, that literally is what gets the smile on my face, because again, she didn't have a huge scoring game, but she made a bucket exactly when they needed her to, and that was what everybody did. Shade had a huge 3-point presence. She had made her first 3 big ones, and then Chen also, got involved. And Paige, she had 10 assists, still had 12 points.
Yeah.
Sarah, great job. Like, everybody was
Caitlin
perfect.
surprised me a little today. She had one really bad shot where she missed everything, but other than that, I mean, but other than that, she was really solid. And I think, God, just 10 points from her is like, I'm not trying to be a jerk. It's like found money. You know what I mean? Like, so, and it's like, if like you're doing your laundry and you look in your pocket and you go, oh, there's a 20. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that to me is what happened there. And so I just think for me, every single player played their role the way they were supposed to. Also, I'm going to point this out because we're going to be on for like 5 more minutes, and then I'm going to jump. I don't see too many trolls in the chat today. I don't see too many rage baiters in here talking about how, this team sucks and Gino lost it and blah, 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 blah. Right. Telling us that I haven't seen too many people say to me, Mark is so soft when he does women's live shows because it's women's basketball and he's trying to be easy on them. The hell I am. Yeah. They've just been playing like crap against big time teams. And now they dominate. And where are you guys? Nowhere to be found. That's my favorite thing about when a UConn team dominates, whether we pick them to win or not, is you don't get as many hate watches, which is fine because people love to hate. You know this. You're a Patriots fan. When Patriots come in, when Patriots fans win a bunch of stuff, people hate the Patriots, hate the Chiefs, all that stuff. So it's not an odd thing to say, by the way, to the person in the chat that said that. It's just, we get this all the time. Every time we do a women's show, the comments and the negativity are almost worse than the men. And the men are in a season right now that we want to forget. Like, it's insane to me. It's just, I'll never understand it.
No, yeah, I agree with you. I mean, people like to hate at what, especially when you're down. It's like, okay, like, relax. We know you know what I'm saying? It's like, sometimes things happen and it is what it is, but like Jason Tatum, I think it was, he's like, what they gonna say now? Like, what are they gonna say now after this win? And like we said, there's still, like, job is not finished. There's still a lot of season left to play. Do I see them losing a game the rest of the way? No. I think we play, what did we have? Creighton for the women.
You play
one
Creighton,
more Creighton game.
I think the last game of the year. Let me double check real quick while we're looking here.
It might be March
February 27th, second to last game of the year. So
okay.
They have four regular season games left, plus they have 7 total left. So they play at Butler, at Seton Hall, at Butler versus Creighton. I don't know if that's in XL or in Gamble, not sure. I could check on it. And then they play Marquette March 2nd. Let's see where that is. This is going to be, it's in
Marquette's
XL Center.
home. Yeah,
They're both home, but I just wanted to see which venue. So
yeah.
Creighton's at XL and Marquette is in Gamble. So you got one more in XL. So they're going to finish this year 27-3. Then they're going to win the 3 Big East tournament games. So they're going to finish 33-3, right? Am I wrong about that? So
no, I think you're
30-3. So
30-3.
31-3. My math is very bad. So 24-3 right now. 4 games left, right? That's 28.
Right, and then 3 games, 31-3.
Right.
Book it. 31-3.
Absolutely. 31-3, book it. I don't know what the spreads are on that, but maybe bet on all the rest of the UConn games before the NCAA tournament because they're going to win them all. My thing is, I saw this in the chat too. Creighton may sneak into the top 20, so that could help their metrics, right? Their resume is not great, but beating a Creighton team in the top 20 twice is good. You beating a North Carolina team in the top 15. Iowa State didn't have a good year, so that game's not going to really show too much. Obviously, injuries against Notre Dame, against USC. I think this team right here is what we saw against Louisville, and then Azzi got hurt. I'm going to point that out. That was the point in the season where it was like, oh, man, here we go again with this kind of like up and down stuff. And now that everyone's healthy, knock on wood, minus Morgan, I think this team definitely has the possibility to go on a run. They showed it. They finally showed it so that we can talk about it that way instead of being like, if they do this, we actually have a proof of concept that we can actually point to.
Right. I agree. I think this was a good game for us, and I do often think that sometimes when it comes down to like picking in March and things like that, I feel like they take into consideration some potential, and I think right now UConn has the highest ceiling. I really do. I feel like we can finally breathe a little bit and not be as worried about what to expect. But I don't know. I feel like the puzzle pieces are starting to align. And I also want to say you want to peak at the right time. And I think South Carolina is having trouble doing that. I think South Carolina
I just saw something here on the scoreboard before we go. North Carolina women beat NC State 66-65. They were 12th. NC State was 10. So you could end up having a top 10 win here, and definitely a quad 1 game for the UConn women with UNC getting into the top 10, potentially as a 2 or a 3 seed going to the tournament. So and so for everyone that's like, there's no way they can get a 1 seed, like that's how this thing works. Texas just beat LSU 65-58. They're looking to trend towards that 1 seed. USC is definitely trending towards a 1 seed. Looks like, I mean, wouldn't it be crazy if South Carolina dropped to a 2 and UConn was a 1 in this scenario?
That's the only thing, because UConn has them in this head-to-head game. That's the only thing that I could see potentially happening. The other thing is, though, South Carolina does have some other, good wins on their resume, probably better resume than UConn. But I guess now with this loss, it's maybe a little bit even, because losing to Texas and losing to UConn, and then UConn lost to, I would say UConn's 2 biggest losses on the season to big teams were obviously USC and Notre Dame. So right now you kind of have those 2 top 5, at least top 10 big losses for both teams in UConn and South Carolina. And beyond that, I think we'll have to see how each team finishes. So time will tell. Time will tell.
All right, guys. Well, listen, happy rest of your Sunday, Bella. Same to everyone in the chat. Appreciate you guys jumping on and adding to the program, asking good questions. It was nice to have some trolls on here, but it's also fun to bark back at them. All right, this has been another episode of Locked On UConn. For Bella Tamano, Hoops Capital of the World, and Locked On UConn, for myself, Mark Zano, your host here. We wish you guys all the best today. We'll see you this week. We have a really fun show tomorrow. This will also be re-aired on about 3:00 tomorrow on the audio version side. If you're an oldie like me, we have Jen Rosati. We have a pod with her tomorrow. first thing in the morning. Check that out. You can listen to what's going on in her world and kind of reminisce about her times at UConn with Jamel Elliott as her roommate, talking about Gino Auriemma, the whole deal. Really fun episode coming up. So if you're definitely would love for anybody that is interested in the women's game to check out Jen. She's the president of the Connecticut Sun, if you're a WNBA fan. And then later this week, it's not confirmed, but we're looking like we're going to have Carol Walters on as well. I forget, there's one more big name that I'm not going to divulge just yet because it's not as confirmed. Okay. But yeah, it'd be cool. Like, all of this is trending towards maybe having some folks like, Jen Rosati and Rebecca Lobo are pretty good friends. We could probably get Rebecca on one day. Like, all these UConn greats, just to kind of talk UConn hoops and women's hoops in general. So appreciate everyone that's contributing to the show and jumping on the show all the time. So again, this has been another episode of Locked On UConn. For Bella Tamano, I'm Mark Zanetto. We say, go Huskies.